Y'all ready for this?
Hey, vGroups, you'll have to excuse my squeaky voice today. I think I might have picked up a bug in the airport on the way home. I'm just happy I have a voice because earlier this week it was pretty funny sounding and there was no mercy around the office, I'll tell you that. I came in yesterday and said 2 words and Rachel and Annie just busted out into full laughter. So I hope you guys will be a little bit more kind. What I want to do this week, looking at Matthew 25 again, we've been looking at that second parable, the 5 talents and the 2 talents and the 1 talents, also 5, 2, 1 bags of gold. I'm going to throw some stuff out, see how it sort of changes the meaning of this parable, a parable that a lot of us have heard over and over, right? I mean, here's the thing. When I opened up and read what we were going to talk about, I expected God's going to show me something I had not seen before. And he always does, 100% of the time. Pastor Cole talks about reading the Bible slowly, which is good for me because elementary school was challenging sometimes, but I'm good at reading slow. But the reason he said that is because we go too fast. We just want to accomplish. We want to bust out our chapter for the day. We'll miss a lot of stuff. So I really did fully expect that God would show me something I hadn't seen before. And in fact, he showed me several things. I'm going to share those things with you. See how it changes the parable, for you guys in your discussion, how it applies. One of the things, I guess I kind of knew this, but Jesus, when he told this story, he just simply chose to make it big, like an exaggeration. 1 talent, or I guess you say 1 bag of gold, depending on the interpretation, was easily worth $500,000. So when Jesus said, well, a guy was going out of town and he entrusted his treasure to some servants, Jesus told the story like to one he gave over $2.5 million. To the other one he gave a full million, and to the last one he gave 500,000. Now that already changes kind of the meaning of the parable. What has our Father entrusted us with? Amazing treasure. That was kind of last week what we talked about. One of the things that was brand new for me as I read through kind of slowly was God showed me that it says that he gave them each the amount according to their ability. What does that tell you about what God does for you? When he gives you resources, when he gives you skills, perhaps when he walks you into and out of situations for the purpose of sharpening and growing us, what does that tell you? In this parable, the master gave each one an amount according to their own ability. Let's discuss that a little bit. I think there's some great application there. The next thing I saw in there is that the 2 that really did a great job, the 2 that doubled what they were given, it says at once they got to it. And the third guy, who was the bad guy who buried the treasure, it doesn't give a timing, but I just think that's also something we should discuss. What does that mean? At once. When we learn something God has given us, or we feel a prompting or a new idea or a new resource or a new door opens, the idea is they saw that opportunity, they heard that commandment, and at once they got to it. What does that mean to us? That'll be some good discussion. The other thing I tried to research was it says after a long time, in just about every version that you read, King James to, the hippy-dippy versions that are out there say it was a long time before the master came back. How long is a long time? It doesn't really tell us. But it ties right in with what we read about in Matthew 24 in week 1, and also what we read about in the first parable, that each one of these parables describes that it takes longer than we think it's going to take. Matthew 24 talks about it. Matthew 25 talks about it, that the virgins who were waiting for the bridegroom didn't expect him to take so long. And I think those two things work together. Here's one I want to throw out to you. Let's say God has given you a treasure, which he has. He's given you an opportunity. He's given you a calling. He's given you a purpose, a mission. This amazing thing that God has given us. We are to at once jump on it and get going on it. But sometimes when we think, he's going to be gone for a long time, we may lose that prompting to get at it at once. What's your perspective? I'm going to ask your vGroup leader to ask this question to you. Show of hands. Who thinks Jesus is coming back in April of 2022? If we raised our hand emphatically, we'd feel kind of silly, like people would look at you like, are you one of those last days doom and gloom people who just thinks the world's going to come to an end next month? But the truth is, just what Jesus is saying, we don't know. It could be tomorrow. It could be in April. But we really don't walk around thinking that way. I mean, I don't. But Jesus is saying, it's pretty wise if we do. Even if we go, it's hard for me just to wrap my mind around that idea that it definitely will be tomorrow or will be next month. I mean, we wouldn't say that out loud. We kind of need to walk around in that posture of, well, it could be. What's God called me to do? Have I gone to it at once? Have I fully appreciated what he's given me to do? Am I getting after it? And certainly in this parable, have I refused to pick it up and take it, or did I try to bury it in the ground? And I mean, if the master was gone a long, long time, think about it. This guy who buried the treasure in the ground, he just let it sit there for a long time. What was he doing all that time? He certainly wasn't taking the responsibility of his serving duties. I mean, maybe he was out partying and just going, I'm good till the master's back. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any work. Maybe that was his attitude. Maybe that's why when the master came back, he was judged so harshly. Real quick, before we get out of this parable into the prophecy of next week, which I'm really excited about, is the idea that with this long time that we have, and Pastor Cole taught about this, the master really was very satisfied with one simple thing. The guy who had 5 talents doubled it to 10. The guy who had 2 talents doubled it to 4. And Cole did such a great job of pointing out that both of them were commended equally. You took what you had, you took what I gave you, and you doubled it. You doubled it. That's going to be one of our catchphrases around vision. Double it. Where I would take that to help it be more tangible is like, let's say every time a new year rolls around, we say in 2022, I'm going to help at least one other person discover the same treasure I have discovered. I'm going to double it. I mean, that's not too ambitious. One person each year that we double it. Compound interest, I guess it's kind of like that. And yet, if we really look at our activity, if we really look at our priorities, I don't know how many of us would say, yeah, every year, I help at least one person discover Christ. I help at least one person. Double it once a year. In one perspective, it sounds like, well, that's not very much. But in another perspective, we go, I haven't done that. And do I expect to do that this year? Do I expect to do that in 2023? Amazing things would happen if we adopted that principle of doubling it. And the people that we brought to Christ, they doubled it. And you know how that works. The math grows and grows and grows. Before you know it, you are surrounded by thousands of people who have now come to know Christ because of that one time you doubled it with somebody. That's a lot of good stuff for us to talk about this week. I'm going to leave it there. I'll get to the notes, send you something on a written page. Between the two, I hope you have a fantastic vGroup this week. I want to continue to express the appreciation. You guys are there, and your vGroup leaders are there, and your host families are there. Thank you guys so much for doing one of the most important things that we have to do here at Vision. Have a good group. Love you guys. Talk to you next time.